And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today I'm back from Gen Con with the hottest game I would think of the convention, and that is Firefly the game. Now this is by Gale Force 9 Games. It's a game for 2 to 4 players, or 5 if you pick up the expansion from Game Trade Magazine, in which you're going to be navigating the verse, picking up jobs, and trying to accomplish those jobs in order to complete the goals of the game, which can change. There are 5 different scenarios, each one a little bit different and having a little bit different goals, and will require a little bit different strategy. So real quick, why don't we take a look at what you get inside of the box, and how the game plays, and then I'll come back here and I'll give you my final opinions of Firefly, the board game. So here you can see the board for Firefly the game all set up. Now, I'm holding my camera by hand for once instead of using a tripod because I want you to be able to see all of the stuff that's included in the game. You have kind of an Arkham Horror thing going on here with decks of cards and little miniatures, and you can see there's all these decks of cards around the board. All of this stuff is used in every type of, or every version of the game, no matter what the mission is, so you'll need all of this stuff. So I'm going to give you a hand tour of the board and such, and then we'll go on to how the game plays from my tripod. But what you're looking at here on the board is the verse, which is where you're going to be navigating around trying to complete jobs, be it pick up and deliver, or just completing a job on a location like robbing a train or a bank, or negotiating with somebody. So here you can see all of the different systems. You have the White Sun system where there's an Alliance cruiser docked. You can be over here in the Georgia system. You can see the green player has started over there. Or you can be over in the Murphy system, or wherever it might be. There's all types of different systems with which you'll be able to navigate. In order to navigate this, each player has their own Firefly ship, like the one you see right here. This is the orange player's Firefly, which is docked in the Lux system at Persephone. And Persephone is a place where you'll be able to buy stuff and sell stuff, and also there is a contact there which will give you missions, which is going to be necessary for completing the game. Over in the far corner here, you can see that the Reaver ship is docked, and the Reaver is going to be navigating around the verse, trying to catch people, kill their passengers and their fugitives, and perhaps even kill some of their crew. Whereas the Alliance, in the center of the board, will be navigating around trying to catch fugitives or outlaws to find them, if they have any warrants, and of course take away all of their contraband and their fugitives. Now, in order to do all this, each player is going to start the game with their own captain and their own Firefly. So you can see the green player's Firefly here is the Bonanza, and its captain is Marco. Each player will get their own captain that has different statistics. For example, Marco is pretty good with guns, and he's got a little bit of engineering skill here in these icons. And he buys explosives and guns at half price, and he has transport. However, you could get other leaders. For example, we have, of course, Mal, or we have Womack, we have Nandy and Burgess and Monty. So each of these will be different. You'll see that Mal's also good with guns, but has some negotiating, and he gets a little bit extra for doing crime. So depending on which one of the captains you draft, you will have a little bit better, or different skills, I should say. In addition, each player's Firefly has different statistics. You'll see here that the Bonanza, all of the Fireflies have the same statistic unless you have the special Firefly that you got from Game Trade Magazine. But all of these are the same. They all have some cargo space hold here. Mine is holding 6 fuel and 2 parts, which is what you'll start with. And then you have a drive engine over here, which will move 5. That's at a full burn, which requires fuel to move. So you'll need to keep a steady supply of fuel if you want to move faster. So in order to move 5, you'd have to spend the fuel and navigate the verse successfully, whereas normally you could just move 1 space. You'll see here that you have a space for active jobs. You can work up to 3 jobs at a time, and you start with 3 jobs in your hand. These aren't active, but once you start them, they'll be active jobs, and they'll be placed over here in order to be used throughout the game and completed in order to get money and various other benefits. So that's basically what you're looking at. You'll see that you also have some expansion slots for your ship to upgrade how that works. So, aside from what the players have, you're also going to be looking at several decks of cards. You'll see these decks of cards over here. For example, the Silverhold, or the Space Bazaar, Osiris. And various other ones. You have Persephone there, and over at the end you have Regina. Each of these has its own discard pile, and in this discard pile are different types of items. You'll see Silverhold here has a sniper rifle that you can buy for $800, and will give you an extra fighting icon. Or you can see that this one here also has some pod grenades that give you explosives. They cost $1,000, but they give you 2 guns. And you'll see this one here is actually a crew member called Hillfolk. These Hillfolk are moral, which means if you do an immoral job, they're going to kind of get upset, or disgruntled, which has its own tokens. And they give you a plus a gun if you have at least 3 other Hillfolk. But they're free to hire, and they would go in your crew area of your ship, which can, of course, hold a maximum number of crew. Each of these different areas will sell different goods. So the Space Bazaar will have different stuff. You'll see it has a ship upgrade here, which lets you get away from certain things. Or you'll see over here in Osiris Shipworks, you have Yolanda, who is another crew member who's deceptive and a grifter and a companion. So if you look at that, she has her own stats. Each of these areas will have their own stuff that you can get in order to kind of further your goal in the game. In addition, we have some decks of cards up here. We have Harkin, Niska, Badger, Patience, and Amnon Duel. These are all of the people that will give you quests in the game. Now, Harkin is with the Alliance, so he's going to give you legal quests. And all quests kind of have the same format here. We'll look at a quest. This one is a cargo delivery quest. It's legal. You can pick it up in Shinnan White Sun, and you need to load 2 cargo. Basically, you just start a job and load those cargo. When you get to White Sun Aerial, you can deliver that 2 cargo and get paid $600. Now, this is a legal job, and it has no needs. Other jobs may have needs. This one does not, but this one picks up 4 parts and delivers 4 parts. And if you have a mechanic, you actually get a bonus of a part at the end, and it pays $600. Legal jobs are not going to pay as well as illegal jobs. So let's take a look at one of those. For example, let's flip some of these over. That one's legal. This one is legal. So we'll look at Badger's jobs here. Badger has an illegal job. It says that you must have a gun, some engineering, and some negotiation, and you must be at Santo King Shi Huang. It requires you to misbehave 3 times, and if you misbehave these 3 times and are successful, you'll get paid $3,500. And if you have a companion, you'll get an extra $500. That's all good and great. You're going to be picking up jobs and trying to accomplish them to get money, but doing illegal things, of course, could warrant you some warrants. And if you get warrants, the Alliance is going to want to catch you, and they're going to want to try and fine you for it and take away any illegal contraband you have. So you'll have to be careful in doing all of that. Now, also included in the game are all kinds of tokens and other cards. You'll see here that we have some tokens for both the fuel and the parts. You have gold tokens, which are used for accomplishing things. You have cargo and passengers, as well as contraband and fugitives, which are just 2-sided tokens. And then you have disgruntled tokens, which go to your crew if you do something they don't like. And if they ever get 2 of them, they leave you. And if your captain ever gets 2, he fires all of his crew. So that's one way to kind of lose stuff throughout the game. You also have a dinosaur token, which is just the first player. It goes on Watch's dashboard, and it's on the dashboard of your Firefly. Some dice, which have Fireflies on these 6s. And then 3 more decks of cards, which are used for navigating and completing quests. You have the border space navigation deck right here, which is used when you're flying around the yellow bordered areas. And you have the Alliance space navigation deck, which is used when flying through the center of the verse in these blue areas. So if you're flying out here, you'll have to flip these cards, and for each space you move, if you're moving more than 1 space, which is called moseying and doesn't require anything, will require you to flip these cards. We'll go over that more in a moment. Why don't I set this up on the tripod, and I'll kind of show you how the game plays. Alright, now that we've covered the basics, why don't we go ahead and see how the game plays. So, in the game at the start, you're going to choose a mission. Each mission is different. This is the one they suggest for the beginning, and it has 3 goals. In this case, the goals are basically accumulate enough of the negotiation skill between your crew members and your items that you're using on your crew members in order to get a 9 or better on a D6 roll. So a lot of things are going to require you to roll a D6. And when you do so, you're going to be trying to beat the goal. It says here it's a 9 if you look at this part of the mission right here. And when you roll this, you're going to need to have some type of money in this case in order to succeed. So if you roll low, you're going to have to pay $1,000 and you'll fail the mission. And you can try it again later. But if you roll a little bit higher, you're going to have to pay $7,000 in order to complete it or fail the mission. And if you roll even higher, you have to only pay $5,000 in order to complete the mission. And of course, if you don't pay the money, you fail. And then the next one here requires an engineering roll. And if you make the engineering roll, you succeed, and if you don't, you fail. And then the bottom one requires a fighting roll of a 10. And if you make it, you succeed, and if you don't, you fail. And then at the bottom, it tells you how long you think this mission is going to take. So it says about 2 hours. Now, there are other ones. For example, this one here says, basically, get $12,000, declare the end of the game, and whoever has the most money after one final round of turns wins. And that one also says it takes 2 hours. Or you may have another one here that says, illegal jobs pay more and you get warrants, and if you get $15,000 you can end the game, and whoever has the most money wins. So there's all types of various scenarios. Some benefit you more for doing illegal jobs, some need you to have more skills, others simply just want you to collect money and end the game. So after you've decided what you're going to do for the mission for the game, you'll set up the board, and each player will get their own captain as I showed you earlier, and they'll decide where they're going to start on the board in reverse order. All of that's just kind of set up, you don't really need to know it. In order to accomplish your goals, be it getting money or picking up new crew, you're going to need to fly around the verse in your Firefly. And you'll start wherever, and maybe you want to pick up some stuff. But anyhow, on your turn, you can take 2 actions. And those 2 actions can be one of 4 things, and you can't duplicate them. So if you do the first action, you can't do the same thing for the second one. And those actions are fly, buy, pick up jobs, and of course, work jobs. So you'll choose one of these 2 actions to be your first action, then you'll choose the second action to be something else. So maybe we'll start with the green player, and the green player decides they want to buy something. Well, that's convenient because they're at a planet that sells stuff. They're at Regina here. And so they'd look at the Regina deck, and can look through the discard pile to see if they want to buy any of this stuff. So they have a ship upgrade here, or they have some horses that will let them get the transport keyword, which may be important for some quests, or maybe they want to pick up a gun hand. So they can consider up to 3 of these cards to buy from the discard pile alone. And they all have their prices at the bottom right-hand corner in money. If they don't want to buy any of these, or if they only want to consider 2 of them, maybe they want to consider the gun hand and the ship upgrade, they would take these 2 cards, and then they may draw up to 3 from the top of the deck. So now we have 3 cards in hand, and they get to consider from these 3 cards. So they could pick up 2 gun hands, they could pick up a ship upgrade, but they can only buy 2 of these 3 cards. Note that you have a maximum number of crew and you have a maximum number of ship upgrades, so if you buy some of this stuff, you need to make sure that you have the space for it. But they're going to change the symbols that you have, the effects that you get from cards. For example, this one here says every time you salvage, you get an extra amount of money, and you get to load some contraband. So it's going to change how the game plays a little bit. Anything you don't buy gets discarded to the discard pile and will be available for other players to buy in a later turn. In addition, when you're buying, you can buy fuel and parts for $100 and $300 a piece, and buying fuel will be very important because you're going to need it to navigate. So that's how buying works. You'll pick up new people for your crew, you'll pick up new equipment for those people to use. Each person can only use 1 piece of equipment, and you'll pick up some upgrades for your ships by going to different places and buying them. And of course, you can always look through the discard piles to see what each place is carrying, and go to that place and know if you want to pick up something specific. The next option would be to fly. And if you want to fly, you're going to go ahead and you're going to start navigating. And you have 2 choices. You can either mosey, which is simply to move 1 space anywhere in the verse without any consequences. The second option is to go ahead and do what's called a full burn, and that would cost you a fuel from your ship. So you would have to discard 1 of these fuel, and you would do what's called a full burn. So let's say green decided they want to do a full burn. Their range is 5 because they don't have an upgraded engine yet, so they would start moving wherever they wanted to go. Let's say they're headed towards Osiris, and they would move 1 space. Each time they move a space, they have to use a nav card. They'll have to flip a nav card from the nav deck. And these cards are basically of 2 different types. There are Keep Flying, which is basically no effect, or there are ones that have events on them. These events are many and varied. They usually give you one of 2 choices. For example, this one has a choice of just keep flying, or it has a choice at the bottom where you can make a salvage ops attempt using your fight skill. And in this case, you would roll a d6 for the fight skill, and you would add whatever skill points you have for a fight. So if I had Marco here, I would get to add 2 to it because I have 2 guns. And if I had more crew member with more guns, of course, I'd get to add those as well. On a 1 through 6, I would have to kill 2 of my crew. Now, I don't have any crew right now, which means my captain would get disgruntled. That's bad news, because if he ever gets disgruntled too much, of course, he kicks out the rest of his crew. But if I succeed, I get $1,000 and I have to stop. So basically, my choice here is try and get some stuff and stop, or keep flying. So I would make that choice, and then I would move on. And if I decided to keep flying, I'd move to the next space, and I would flip another card. So maybe that one is this option here. I can either, if I have a pilot, keep flying. Otherwise, I can spend a fuel and keep flying, or I can go down here and try and make a salvage op, which means I can pick up some stuff and stop. This one using engineering skill. While flying in the border space, you will draw your cards from the border space deck, while if you enter the alliance space here, you would draw from the alliance deck. And really only the difference is that you're going to be moving the Reaver ship for some of these cards in the border space, and if the Reaver ship catches you, it has some effects where it kills off your passengers and it kills off your fugitives, which you will get from doing different quests, or it can kill some of your crew members. And sometimes if you have the right skills, such as pilots and some fuel, you can escape and basically fly away without any consequences, but it'll end your movement. The Alliance ship only really cares if you're an outlaw. If you're carrying any contraband or you have any warrants, at that point they'll stop you, they'll force you to pay for your warrants, which is $1,000 per warrant, and of course you're trying to collect money, which comes with this cool paper money like this. So if you get caught, you have to pay $1,000 per warrant, and you lose all of your illegal stuff on your ship. So that's how that's going to work. But basically, you'll fly, you'll keep flipping cards until you either get forced to stop by an event, or you arrive where you want to, or you max out your movement. Now, getting quests requires you to be at certain places. You can either be at Niska, you can be over here at Badger, you can be at Amandul, or various other places around the board. But if you're there, you can try and negotiate with this person in order to pick up jobs. you'll get to look at up to 3 jobs, and again, there can be some in the discard pile, so you can consider those, and they'll be face up. Otherwise, you'll take a look at some of the jobs that they give you. And I already showed you the layout of jobs. Some of them require you to misbehave, which is much like using the navigation deck. So when you misbehave, you'll start this job when you get to the right area, Aerial White Sun. So you'd have to fly down to Aerial White Sun, which is right here, and you can start this job, which is one of your actions, starting a job. So picking up jobs is an action, starting jobs is an action. And then you have to misbehave 3 times in order to successfully accomplish this job. So in order to do this, once I've started it, I would flip over cards from the misbehaving deck and resolve them one by one. So this one here says that if I have a hacking rig, I automatically succeed. Otherwise, I must take one of these 2 challenges, an engineering at a target of 7 or a fighting at a target of 9. The engineering, I would botch the attempt if I failed it, but botching an attempt does not make you lose the job. And if I succeeded, I would just continue and proceed. However, if I do the fighting attempt and I fail, I will kill a crew, which kills one of my crew on my ship. I will get a warrant, which automatically fails the job, and basically will have me as an outlaw. Otherwise, I succeed and continue on. So that would be the first card. I have to do this 3 times in order to accomplish this job. So I'd flip over the next one. I can either proceed or do an engineering check. And I'd keep doing this until I go through the number of misbehaving cards that the job says I need to accomplish. When you successfully complete a job by either doing all the misbehaving you need to do or picking up something at a location and delivering it where it needs to go, you're going to get paid for that job. So if I did successfully complete my 3 misbehavings and I had some fancy duds and an engineering and 2 negotiation, I would get $4,000. However, there's a caveat here. Instead of just getting your straight $4,000, you actually have to pay all of your crew. So when you buy your crew, they have a cost, and that's also the cost they take any time that you complete a job while they're on board. So she would take $300 of your $4,000 cut, and you'd only get paid $3,700. Now, this may or may not be a big deal, depending on what your goal is in the game. If you're not really going for money, no big deal. But if you are, of course, you're going to want to collect as much as you can. Of course, various other things can spoil your attempts. You can get caught by the Reavers, you can get caught by the Alliance, you can break down in the middle of space with no parts, you can run out of fuel while trying to burn around, and if you run out of fuel, of course, you can only move 1 space at a time. So you need to quickly get to somewhere where you can buy some fuel, and of course, replenish and get ready to burn around the galaxy again. But the whole goal is, of course, to try and get as much money as you can, or accomplish the goals, get as much skill as you can in engineering and negotiation and fighting, in order to accomplish quests, in order to finish the goals of the card that you started with, and be the first player to accomplish all of the goals, or have the most money, and of course, win the game. Well, there you have it. That is Firefly, the board game. Now, the game is pretty good. I like the fact that the theme meshes pretty well with the mechanics. And I'd say the mechanics are much like Merchant of Venus. If you've played Merchant of Venus, it has a very similar concept in that you're picking up things, either, picking up cargo or passengers or contraband or fugitives, and trying to fly them from one place to the other. Now, I guess that's really where the comparison ends. You are moving across the space, trying to pick stuff up one place and deliver it to another. But it's not the same random delivery that it is in Merchant of Venus, and it's not the same mechanics of flying from one place to the other. So each movement point you take in Firefly has more danger, or some danger, whereas in Merchant of Venus, you could get sent the wrong way, but it's really not that dangerous, just kind of frustrating. So in this one, the further you fly, the more danger you're taking. You have to flip those navigation cards each time, and something could go terribly wrong. You could get caught by the Reavers, or you could, of course, be picked up by the Alliance if you're carrying contraband and have to pay money, which could be detrimental to your game plan. In addition, there's a lot more, I'd say, randomness in accomplishing jobs in this game. Pick up and deliver is fairly safe, where you're just putting the stuff on your ship and delivering it when you get there. But things like robbing a train require you to flip 3 of those misbehaving cards. And terrible things could happen. You could lose your crew. You could simply get a warrant and lose the job and now have cargo you can't use. Or while flying from one place to the other, you could simply lose whatever you're trying to deliver because some pirates come by and steal it from you, or you get blown up and somehow lose your cargo, or whatever the case may be. There's all types of pitfalls that can befall you in Firefly. Now the theme really comes through for me. I really enjoy the fact that it's Firefly, and I do like to pick up and deliver in the variable goals that you can have throughout the game. But I think that the goals they tell you that they're going to last 2 hours if you play this scenario, that's not even close to true. Each time I've played now, we've played the introductory scenario and we've played money. But basically, each time it's gone longer than we thought it would. The introductory scenario says 2 hours, and I think it's more like an hour a player. I'm thinking you're looking more at 4 hours for a 4-player game, simply because it takes a while to navigate through, make all the rolls. You have to basically switch from having a whole bunch of negotiation with your crew and your items, accomplish that goal, then switch to having engineering, or if you already have it, you're good, but you have to kind of switch gears a little bit to get the engineering, and then finally you have to switch gears a little bit again to have all of the firepower that you need in order to accomplish the last goal. Now, is it fun? I had fun all of the time, but it is longer than I would like it to be, so I want people to take that into consideration. For your first mission, I would definitely suggest checking out one of the scenarios where you're simply trying to get enough money and end the game, because you don't have to kind of switch gears each time you want to do something. All in all, I enjoy Firefly quite a bit. I'm not sure it's quite worthy of all of the hype it had at Gen Con. It is a pick-up-and-deliver game with a Firefly theme, so if you enjoy Firefly, I think you're going to enjoy the game, but you're going to want to try and find a way to keep it shorter, either by having your players plan their turns out on other players' turns, or simply by using one of the scenarios that takes a little bit less time to play. With that said, check it out. That's Firefly the Game by Gale Force 9.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.